Hello and welcome, everybody. So, my name is Steven, and this is the show where we bring together HR experts to break down some of the most fundamental topics in the industry. Today we're going to be talking about 30, 60, and 90-day reviews. And I have with me three amazing panelists here, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. So we've got with us Stephen Farber, who's the talent retention Sherpa at Hero Culture. We've got Ryan Spurgeon, Director of HR at Byron Wellness and CEO of Spurgeon Consulting. And last but not least, we have Natalie Vanina, HR Director, with us. So hello, everybody. So excited to jump into this topic with you and have you share some insights with all the people listening and watching. And let's just jump right in here. This panel is really interesting because we're almost going to cover three different topics together in one conversation. So usually it's just like, oh, employee experience, employee engagement. But in this topic, we're talking about 30-day reviews, 60-day reviews, and 90-day reviews. We decided it'd be best to just group these together into just one conversation. And I want to start off with some basic definitions here. So what are 30, 60, and 90-day reviews? Ryan, would you mind kicking us off with that?
Sure thing, Stephen. So I took a different approach for 30, 60, 90. Not to throw a wrench in your topic here, but I've turned them into more of a 10, 45, and 90-day retention conversations. Change the wording on it, shorten some of the time frames, because I believe that 30 days as a new employee, if you're not talking to them, making a touch point with them sooner than that, they may feel lost. They may feel unsure of who to go to. They may become frustrated. So that's why I've shortened those time frames to 10, 45, still doing the 90-day, just changed up those first two. And I found a lot of benefits out of that, where the employee has a lot of questions because they're being bombarded during orientation with so much information that it's like drinking from a fire hose. And they're like, I don't remember what you told me, where to park, how much is, the lunch is here, where are the certain policies that I have to find for, dress code or benefits, things like that. So touching getting with that employee at 10-day instead of 30-day limits that amount of frustration that they may have, because they may be shy about reaching out to someone too. Going to HR, HR, they're very hesitant on reaching out to us. So, but yes, the 90-day aspect is still very good to encompass that in their 90-day performance review as well. So sorry, it's a long answer to your short question, but
no, that's perfect. And I'm glad, by the way, that you're bringing in a different angle on this. Yeah, because I think we get into the rhythm of saying 30, 60, 90. It's spaced apart. It feels right, but you're customizing it probably for your organization a little bit, sharing and trying to make it a specific policy for your specific company. I want to turn it over to Natalie and Ryan. What do you think about kind of Ryan's approach to this, kind of shortening them? And what would you add to his definition around, to his definition, or maybe the goals of holding these in general, however long or at whatever time periods they may be? Natalie, do you have some thoughts to share on that to begin with?
Thank you. Well, it's a great point. So while the formal procedure I would have stipulated in the handbook would have 30 and 90 days, I would encourage managers to check in more frequently, as well as employees, new hires, to check in with HR and line manager. So what I noticed, the employees very rarely would read the handbook. Even if you print it out for them and sit down and take them through the key things they should focus on, they don't do that. But they would come back with the questions to HR for sure. So what new hire performance evaluation for me, actually just evaluation, is first of all progress on training, how they are doing in terms of training, if they receive every support they need, and whether they're demonstrating good performance versus expected performance versus the standards of the job. So, and the 30-day evaluation for me is certainly as HR director to help people to answer the questions, to connect them, and to be their bodies if needed.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Stephen, I want to give you a second to chime in here as well on what you see the 30, 60, 90, 10, 45, 90. What do you see as the primary purpose of all this?
Yeah, definitely. And a great response from Natalie and Ryan there. And I definitely kind of keyed in on something Ryan said, or Ryan. Right, you call it retention reviews, and that's the point, right? It's right. Retention. So what I see is from a high level point of view, and I'm going to quote a connection of mine, Peter Masana from SearchSpring. He said the first 30 days are so crucial. So if we're waiting until day 30 to actually sit down and talk with somebody, we're doing it wrong. I think the 30, 60, 90, those are the big points to hit. And there's definitely more of a meeting, more of an involved meeting there. But, doing little things that lead up, it's almost like sales, doing little touch points on this candidate or now your employee to make sure that they continue to mold into that loyalty. And to Natalie's point, she mentioned, being the buddy. We had a live that I was on with the onboarding buddies was brilliant. Having somebody who kind of matches that personality style or the way that person thinks, constantly checking in with them and checking in with you too as the HR professional. So everything you can do from day 1 to day 30 and then continuing out is crucial. And that's all I have to say.
No, that's great. I want to keep diving in here and kind of fleshing out the way that people view these conversations. From everything you three have said so far, I'm hearing these are opportunities to answer their questions, teach them policy. But Natalie, I think you also brought up something interesting where you called it an evaluation. Would you mind talking a little bit more about that? So what aspects, like, is this a performance review too, or is it simply just to connect and make sure everyone's feeling okay?
Actually, you will be surprised, but it is performance review, and even checking in their progress on training is a performance review. At least it was for the organizations I worked for. So depending on the level, we would have very clear expectations. If it's an entry-level position, if it's, for example, a receptionist, a scheduler, medical scheduler, front desk, clerk, we would set very clear expectations that you're never late, you are friendly with the customers, you can escalate things in a rapid and professional manner. So from day one, and it has always been part of my induction program or orientation, day one onboarding program, set up clear expectations on the company level. So key things that people should stick to. So for more senior positions, definitely it's more elaborated, it's more sophisticated. But yes, from day one, it's performance evaluation, how people learn how they are performing during training, how they are performing during interaction with their peers.
Yeah. I love that you're bringing up too, that it's like, maybe it's not huge performance stuff. You're not expecting them to turn around the company, but you're checking basic stuff. Like, are they arriving on time, and are they completing their training. So that's really interesting. I want to talk about, Ryan, I'm really glad that you immediately began with, hey, should we have these at these intervals? I want to ask now to the whole group, what do you think? Do we need to have all three of them? Or should we have 6 of them? Right? So what do you think about this frequency? Ryan, if you have any thoughts first, and then if anyone else wants to jump in.
Sure, yeah. I think, the frequency of either 10, 45, or 90, 30, 60, 90, that frequency is great, but you don't want to just stop at 90 as well. You want to continue on checking in. It doesn't have to be as formal. You don't have to have a formal form to go along with it. It doesn't have to be conducted by HR, but it still needs to continue. You need to continue to check in with your employee all the way up to, a year or more. But definitely want to look into that year mark. You want to, that's a huge goal for a lot of my clients or companies, is that making the employee, or not making them, but making sure that they are staying till that year mark, because there's a lot of turnover within that first 90 days, that first 120 days, because, either they weren't a good fit, they weren't catching on to the job duties and responsibilities, there was attendance issues, things like that, where you come in at that 10-day, reiterate the attendance policy, the job duties and responsibilities, your expectations, check in how that progress is going at 45, include a review or a manager's analysis of their performance and how well they're fitting in with the team and other departments. And then that 90-day review is coupled with their performance evaluation at 90 days. And that usually may tie into, wage increase or a promotion to outside of that entry level into another level position. But those 3 touch points, I believe, are very key within a new employee's first 90 days. That's a real crucial moment. And you may want to add in a couple, before the 10-day, maybe at 5, maybe 5, 10, 15, 45, 90. Whatever the interval is, you do what's best for your company and your team, right? It can be overwhelming trying to track all of these new employees, how many days out, when did they hit their mark, did their supervisor fill out the information that you needed? It can be overwhelming, especially if you have 120 plus, employees, and 15 of them are new hires and they're spread it throughout. And then you have some that drop off because of termination or voluntary or involuntary. So to answer your question, really is, it really depends. But I do believe that 30, 60, 90, those, or 10, 45, and 90 are very crucial to have.
Yeah. It's from what I'm hearing, it's like at least these 3 touch points in the first 90 days. Feels right. Does anyone else want to share any thoughts around, is it just 3 touch points? Is it more? Is it the 90 days that are the most crucial? Natalie, I think I see you unmuting.
Yeah, actually, with more young people, high school graduates entering the workforce without any experience and without any proper training, so they need more attention. In my previous roles in oil and gas, all my new hires would have at least bachelor's degree. While I worked in healthcare, we hired a lot of people fresh from high school. We would hire them as summer students, and they would stay as employees after completing their summer school program. So these young employees without any experience need more attention. And definitely, I witnessed super high attrition during the first 10 days when employees came they didn't get enough attention, enough training, they didn't get the answers for their questions, they got frustrated and disappointed. So absolutely agree with my colleagues. So it's crucial to start as early as possible and check in. Even if they don't come back to you with any questions, just check in. Make sure they have the questions. Make sure they stay engaged and interested, and not, frustrated, sad, and ready to leave.
Yeah. It's cool that you have that data too to kind of show that the attrition was happening after 10 days. So that sounds like it could inform your strategy really well. Okay, I think we covered this really well. I want to kind of get really focused in now on what are these reviews, meetings, what do they really look like? Like, what are you actually asking them? Ryan, I think you were starting to share a little bit of this, but I want to give this question to everyone. So we'll just go, maybe we'll start with Steven, then go back to Ryan and end with Natalie. But really 2 questions here. And the first is, what questions do you like to see asked? And should you ask different questions at the different touch points? So, and what I mean by that is, are you just asking the same standard questions at the 30 and 60, 90 points so that you kind of have this graph of data to say, hey, it got better or it got worse? Or are there really just different conversations you need to have at each of those points? So I'll turn this over to you first, Stephen. What are your thoughts on questions, and should they be different at the 3 different touch points?
Sure. And, I think Natalie and Ryan could probably answer in more detail than I could on this, but I do know for sure, in my experience, let's just say leading up to that 30-day point, you have, you're doing like maybe a day 7, a day 15, you're doing a couple touches beforehand. But I'd say the questions during that first point are going to be very basic ones, like, how do you like the trainer we assigned to you? Or stuff that's like the start of the business. Hey, so how do you like this part so far? Or are you excited? Let me use an example here. I used to be in route sales a long time ago. So the first 60 days, you're with somebody in a truck alone with that person, and you're having to be trained on how to not only deliver, but sell. And one thing that at the time, the person who was the VP of HR actually asked me, and it meant a lot, is they called me and they said, hey, how you doing out there? I know it's hot today. And it was actually a check-in point, but it was a very personal question. They made sure they noted about the temperature and what was going on. Like, hey, by the way, you got like this video, this thing to do. Do you think today or tomorrow would be a better day to do that? Oh, and also let me know, how Bob is as a trainer. And it's like, it doesn't feel like I'm sitting down and I'm being reviewed. It feels like a friend is making sure I'm okay. And I think any way that we can take, and this probably applies to every review, but when we can really kind of connect with that person as what they would consider a trusted friend, then those reviews are going to change, and they're going to be more encouraging, that in such a way as to kind of get this employee excited about. They just stepped into like their next big role in life. You want them to be excited. It doesn't matter if you work in oil and gas or something more white collar. You want them to be excited so that you can pour into them over time, and that they can they look forward to those reviews. So I kind of went all over the place there, but I'd love to turn it over to one of these two. So.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great, and great insight into the 30-day, especially on like, hey, just let them know that you're their friend and check up on a couple training things. Ryan, let's go over to you. What specific questions do you like to see asked, and do they change over time in the 3 touch points?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the 10-day that we have, it's very basic questions. How is your new schedule working for you? Some folks have to alter their schedules when taking on a new job, and they may have to work around daycare or their spouse's schedule, or whatever. Maybe they took on second shift, or maybe they swapped from first to third, or what have you. There's life, you have to make sure that your life schedule has been worked around with your work schedule. So that's one of the key things that I like to make sure things are working on, because that can play into frustration and attendance issues. So we want to make sure we iron out any complications or obstacles in those first 10 days. Then we like to know what they liked most about their orientation. What was the training portion like? Here with Byron, they have a 2-day orientation. They go over policies and procedures, the history, the culture. We buy lunch for the new hires. Then we have like just a casual conversation with leadership and the new hires during that lunch period. So we want to make sure, is it comfortable? Is it paced well? Does the room, is the room well lit, and, air control is good? Things like that can play a huge deal to make sure that they're comfortable and willing to sit in there for 8 hours a day, right?
You're almost like, sorry, but just to clarify here, you're getting feedback on how onboarding was so that you can improve.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are looking for anybody and everybody to give us feedback on how we can make things better. So we're going to ask that in the first 10 days. And that's another question that is repeated. We want to make sure that anything during that process is caught and improved. We also like to ask, have you noticed any additional tools or training or equipment that we can provide to you for you to better, do your job? Those are some things. Maybe they are needing a laptop instead of a desktop. They're needing to work from home. Let's get them set up with some electronics and things set up there. I don't have my business cards yet. Oh, shoot. I thought we ordered that for you. So we'll take care of that. So those are some things that, we look at. And then obviously we want to ask who's been the most helpful to you in these past 10 days. Because we're going to recognize those folks that they listed on the form or told us about. And we want to do that publicly. We want to congratulate them or let them know, some people don't like to be congratulated publicly. So we'll, congratulate them or thank them personally one-on-one. But it's understanding that information. And it's a quick 7-question conversation that all of my forms have, 10, 45, and 90. Some of those questions do flow over down the line, but I do change up a few at the end there. And then I also make sure to include the manager's point of view in that. And the thing about the manager's review is that it's done with that employee right there with them. I kind of put them on that spot because I want them to hear from the horse's mouth exactly if you're doing awesome, you're doing great, or are there some issues? Are there some concerns that have come up? We want to get those out in the open and resolved as quickly as possible. We don't want that to fester for 6 months to a year and then end up being a problem and we have to let the individual go, or they end up quitting or just working on the job, right? So we want to make sure to include the supervisor manager's point of view on that individual's performance and how well they're doing their job.
Yeah. Ryan, I want to, you're getting a shout out here from Evelyn. She's wondering if you're able to share your templates at all.
Hit me up on LinkedIn and I'll be able to help you out.
Great. Okay. So that's an open invitation. Everybody go take over his inbox.
Yeah. Thanks.
Get those shared.
I just wanted to jump in real quick and just really highlight something Ryan said, which is recognition. I've been doing a LinkedIn poll on this, just asking people, how do you like to be recognized? And there is a huge difference between people who like public and private recognition. And that is, Stephen, I think you're the one who posted that huge lawsuit that happened over an employee who had an anxiety issue. That's an extreme thing that can happen, but I'm one of those people that I can't stand to be publicly recognized. Like, I'll do it, but I'm like, ugh. But if somebody sends me an email that's like, Stephen, great job, and it's sincere, well, I'll think about that for a month. So that's just a huge thing to work in there. And you can learn that at the hiring process and then put it in every single review and you have that person's attention. I just thought that was a great point, Brian. So thanks for sharing.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Thanks for chiming in. Nada, let's turn it over to you. I think we covered it well, but what are your favorite questions that you want to see on these reviews?
Thank you, guys. You have covered it all. I'm a very structured person and I love HR analytics. So I can ask her different questions, but I would group them, to run some analytics afterwards. So I love to group them, like questions about how your training went, what kind of support did you get, and what kind of support you didn't get, who supported you mostly. So it helps me to identify how high potential employees who love to reach out and help people and who demonstrate growth potential. And definitely I love asking them questions about the job, how they understand the job, how they understand what they are doing, and how they understand the connection between their job performance and the pay. Normally, I would conduct my HR checks in after the initial conversation with the line manager. So I always try to separate the two conversations, the feedback the line manager would give them. And I would definitely coach line managers on that and help them with the question they have to ask. And my check-in, my evaluation, my conversation would be a little bit different because I would probe on different sides. And it helps me with, identifying high potential employees, improving my onboarding process, and actually assessing how engaged the new hire is and what the risks are, whether it would make sense to do something, or if I see that this person won't last, so I could, start replacement.
Yeah. I want to double click on what you just said around you're finding out whether or not somebody is going to last at the organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to give this back to you, Natalie, to share your thoughts, then whoever else would like to. But how soon can you know? Is it pretty obvious within these first 90 days whether or not is going to be
first 2 weeks?
First 2 weeks.
First 2 weeks, absolutely. So either you click in with a company, or you like the company culture, you click in with your line manager or not. It's obvious within first couple of weeks.
Yeah. Ryan, I see you're nodding your head as well.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want to share? I specifically want to know, I'm just imagining we're sitting in this, 30-day review, and you're kind of going over these questions, but you're also just sitting there and thinking, I don't know if you should be here anymore. You bring that up. Go ahead, Ryan.
I've had to have that difficult conversation with a few folks where you're sitting in that meeting at even 10 days, or like you said, Natalie, 2 weeks. You absolutely know that person is going to make it or break it. So 2 weeks, if you're sitting in that conversation, that's a difficult conversation that we're going to have. And you better make sure that you and your supervisor have documented well on the reasons why you don't believe that they're a good fit for the team, for the company. And you're going to have that difficult conversation with them about, does it make sense moving forward, right? And that's okay to have at that time during the 10-day, because you're going to waste the company's time and money, as well as that individual. They have the right to go find somewhere where they're happy. And it's definitely not at your company if you're having that conversation. So they may be upset at first, but, in a week or two, with this job market being so hot that it is, and able to find a job next week or next day or next 10 hours, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
Great point. Candid feedback will save a lot of stress, for everybody. The new hire, the manager, HR. So yeah, great point. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Natalie.
Stephen, I want to give you an opportunity to speak on this too, if you have any additional thoughts. But any things that you would look for at these early stages that would say, hey, maybe this isn't a great fit, and any insights on how to actually start that conversation?
Yeah, from what I've observed is when you start to see it's a great fit, the other person's probably already seen it that way, and with the exception of a few cases, I'm sure, but for the most part, if the performance isn't there, then it's going to be obvious for both people. So I would say, my advice is when you're going into that conversation, it's probably not going to be a hard one because that person probably doesn't want to be there. I would take that more as a more of a mark of learning to take to the hiring process and say, okay, with the exception of maybe this person having some sort of life event that just changed the way that they work right now, which that might be, that's a loyalty incident where you can actually create an amazing employee if you stick with them through it. But in most cases, they're probably just, it's not a good fit. You have that conversation, they're probably thankful because they were about to drop you weren't about to drop you a 2 weeks notice and then just 3-day no-show. So to avoid that, have the conversation sooner than later. And if you want to go the extra mile and just be that good person, think about what they do and maybe say, hey, here's a job site that I've had luck with in the past. You seem like the kind of person who'd be good in this role. Leave them with a good impression too, because you never know who they might refer to your business, or they might do business with you, or who knows, maybe they'll change their tune and come back. So the key is have the conversation anyway, because it needs to be had. What's that book? Eat the Frog. Just do it, and and get it over with, and leave a good impression whenever possible.
Yeah. Great thoughts there. I want to ask the inverse of this whole question too, which is, let's say 90 days or 60 days, they are an all-star. You can tell like they're going to have a long future with the company. They're doing amazing work. They're blowing whatever metrics you have out of the water. What can HR do? Is there anything, like I'm thinking like raises or benefits or something to bring in some extra loyalty? Right.
Can I jump in on this one first? Yeah. Just going off of what you're saying, invest in that person. Oh my gosh, jump on it. This is the point where I know that I, in the past, as an employee and as somebody, whenever I was in HR for a very short stint, just directly in the role, if people don't feel like they're being rewarded or recognized for this amazing work, they're going to go find another place that will. So, the inverse of that is you will push them away if you don't recognize and reward that hard work. There's so many people who will just be like, great, we got somebody great. And I don't have to worry about them going, they'll go full tenure. And they will not, unless you make sure they know how much you appreciate them. So whatever it takes, it doesn't necessarily have to be a raise. That'd be great. Everybody loves that. But, throw more than money at them, take them out to eat, give them, I would avoid company swag as the answer all the time. I would give them something unique that about them and the process. And that would be coming from asking questions. I think we had a candy bar example. If they love Snickers bars, it may seem like I don't know, with inflation, maybe they're $10 bars now, but get them a Snickers bar and they will love you. That just get them what's important to them and make sure you do that for those people. And I would definitely invest in some leadership training or something with them too. Give them that future of the vision. Like, hey, you're killing it. How would you feel about being more in this company? Let's start getting you into some cross training. How would you feel about shadowing your manager for a day, seeing what that might look like? Give them a taste. Hopefully it's a good manager. Don't give them a bad taste, but give them a taste of that, and just invest in them. I'm gonna jump off my soapbox now, and I feel like Natalie and Ryan could give some more specific answers, but I think the whole point is just when you see it, invest, or they're gonna be gone because there's too many opportunities right now. It's candidates market, it's flipped, and until it flips back, if it does, you got to jump on it to build that loyalty.
Yeah, great thoughts, Steven. Appreciate that. Ryan or Natalie, you're welcome to comment on this as well. How do we should and how do we double down on these great employees in this first 90-day period? Go ahead, Natalie.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great point. So once you say this is your person, you're...
Oh no.
Sorry.
We lost you a little bit.
Did you? Yeah, sorry. Someone called me. So the reward can range, between adjusting the job even if you see a potential, be quick to promote a person. If you see any leadership potential and the person is interested, so grab it on spot and make sure you keep the person hungry, hungry to learn the organization, and be ready, to go beyond the bar. So my approach has always been to tailor the compensation and rewards for the person while staying in the framework of the global compensation system. So definitely now people do appreciate learning opportunities. So sending person to a conference, providing more visibility, and promoting the experience and skill set even across the organization, saying, okay, this person has got expertise here, so let's set up internal training. And as HR, I love setting up corporate universities and train the trainer program, fostering the culture of keeping the knowledge within organization and rewarding people through the opportunity to grow and to get recognition. So sometimes recognition among their peers, among their colleagues, is much better than just a small pay raise, particularly if the organization cannot afford it at this point of time. So a lot of instruments, just talk to the people and understand their aspirations, their interests, what motivates them, and the company's what the company can offer, the company's option.
Yeah, Stephen and Natalie, you both knocked it out of the park. I 100% agree with what you both said. And to just piggyback or add on to it, you're right. It's not just throwing a little cash at them or give them a measly little raise. Show them that they have value. Show them that they have a future at your company. Because if you don't, if they just think, oh, I'm just the best of the best at this job, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life and not grow, hardly get a wage raise. They may find it more repetitive and menial type work. And they're like, I want a challenge. I need growth. I need to stretch my limits. And by, encouraging them and showing them how to grow, do the corporate universities, or show them that, hey, I'm going to take you out for lunch. All of these ideas are perfect. And it goes it's a lot more appreciated than just say, hey, here's a 3% raise for all the awesome work you've done. No, make it more meaningful, put some more thought into it. More money is great, but it's not meaningful at all. So I agree with what Stephen and Natalie said. Thinking outside the box, showing them how to grow, and showing them that we care and we want you here, and the sky's the limit after that.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think we covered that topic really well, and that was kind of the last major one I wanted to discuss with you. We always have one question at the end, though. This is kind of your last opportunity to share your final piece of advice. So I'm going to kick this off now, and Ryan, I'm going to give you the first opportunity here.
Okay.
Then we'll go to Stephen and then go to Natalie. But essentially, in a sentence or two, let's imagine people watching, they don't really have a 90-day, like they don't have any processes in place for these first 90 days, and they want to start. So what are your, in a sentence or two, best piece of advice for them?
My best piece of advice is, if you want to start, either contact someone who has implemented something like this, reach out to Eddie or Sherm. They have a lot of knowledge, a lot of data, information that you can go there. Either it's for free or you pay a membership fee. But I would suggest reaching out, finding a mentor, finding someone that you can connect with and learn from them and grow. And it won't just end at a 30, 60, 90 day. review, they can help you in other areas as well. So I really encourage mentorship or coaches for sure.
Love it. Sounds like Ryan's opening himself up here. So reach out, get the template, hang out with Ryan.
Yeah.
Over to you, Steven.
Yeah, really, man, I hate this term because I hear it all the time, but piggybacking, it's the best one to use. I'm going to piggyback off of Ryan now. And also, Natalie mentioned a term, train the trainers. That's huge. Train your people. Talent development is such a big deal now, especially kind of a keyword that a lot of people are going to hear going around that applies to this and everything else is emotional intelligence. You have to invest in that, not only for yourself, but also for your team, because it makes all the difference for the reviews. So not just reviews or 30, 60, 90, but everything that we talk about on these lives can be affected by just investing in training the trainers who train your people. So whatever that takes, get with somebody like Ryan or myself or Natalie and ask those questions and look out there. Eddie has a ton of great stuff. I think that's a good place to start. And get those programs in place because those are self-replicatable. So you'll be able to have just better 30, 60, 90s. And I'm kind of a little scatterbrained on this right now. But my big point is just make sure that your people are trained to retain other people. That is what you want in the end. Just train to retain. That is it.
Awesome. Natalie, last word to you. Final piece of
Start
advice.
small. Start small. Keep it very simple. Look at what you have now, even if it's not formalized, if you don't have, the forms, procedures, but you're definitely doing something already. You have something in place. Look at it. And then, put together simple forms and procedures using the great resources like Eddie, Sham, LinkedIn, HR community, reaching out. So don't invent the bicycle. Everything is already in place. Just, start small and choose what fits best your organization.
Yeah, perfect.
Be practical. I'm very hands-on, person.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a great conversation. Really appreciate you three being here. I always show the slide at the end. If you want to learn more about 30, 60, 90-day reviews, I just have the link to one of the articles here, but we have an article on each, and we have, I think, a dozen or so articles on the early days of employee onboarding, what you need to do. So plenty of knowledge to gain there. And also go meet these three on LinkedIn. Their other profiles are on some HR. They have some HR Maverick profile pages where you can get to know them. But most of all, just really appreciate you three for being here. I learned a lot, and I know everyone else did as well. So we hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
All right. Thanks again, Steven.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.